Welcome to Ratchet Radio, Argent Dawn's most professional podcast. No one's gonna believe that one, I'm telling you. Today's show is brought to you with the help of the Ebon Vigil. You know, that spooky group of Death Knights whose sole purpose is to hunt down other Death Knights and do them in. Thanks for providing us with the security tonight, fellas. Sure makes me feel safe in here. We've got our first guest of the season with us tonight. Had to ship him in a big crate marked Fragile, all the way from Ironforge. Only someone screwed up looking at you, Andrigo, and he ended up in Gadgetzan and had to brave the road north to us. We took pictures, so you can laugh at the hairy mook flailing about in the 1,000 needles. So sit yourself down, stop playing Secret Paladin decks, and brace yourselves.
Hello ladies and gentlemen of all races and factions, welcome back to Ratchet Radio. My goodness, so far, minus YouTube causing us problems with sound, we're doing really well for Season 2, and it's a pleasure to be Argent Dawn's podcast. Now of course, I am joined by the neutral man who bodies Tyr, Andrigo. Now this week we had a little bit of trouble locating Edrasil. We did eventually find him slumped over a bar, completely asleep and destroyed and intoxicated and, well, non-functional. Thankfully, we found someone who knows how to sober up really quickly. His name is oh no, wait, that's the wrong show. His name is Thunderbraid, and he will be our guest for today, and the first guest of Season 2. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Hi.
So, the format of the show today will be we're going to go over the news, then we'll have our interview with Thunderbraid, then we're going to have our break, and our Gobbo's going to do an amazing advert, you'll love it. Then we've got our YouTube comments, Ask FM, and emails. We'll have our debate of the day, which Andrigo, thank you very much for sorting out. And then we'll wrap up, and that'll be it for today. How's that sound?
Sounds alright. I have no problems with this.
Sounds perfect to me.
So, while I'm still on the mic, I will quickly do the Alliance news. It's going to be really quick, because we're of course trying to keep it still to half an hour. So, it's been a while since our last show, so a lot's been going on. But I've picked out some highlights of things that have happened and things that are upcoming. So the first thing to talk about is the Guild Name Conference meet-up thing. So all sorts of Guild Name guilds together, thanks to Guild Name MC. Very much a networking event. I heard there was a Guild Name National Anthem sung, so please give me the lyrics. So it's always nice to see these gatherings, and we hope to see many more in the future. We had Nash and Vale Story Night, and it's a bi-weekly meeting, not bisexual meeting, bi-weekly meeting for the Night Elves to come together and roleplay when sort of other than when big events are on. Thank you to Acrona for running this. It'll be on every other Thursday. On the log behind Ashnar at 2000 realm time says 8 o'clock. So it's running bi-weekly, and contact Acrona for more details. Our Warlocks have been up to mischief, of course, this week. Since last show, the Lamb Society have had their monthly meeting deep beneath the crypts of Stormwind. It's a gathering of Alliance Warlocks to discuss and debate magical arts. It's open to all races and classes of the Alliance, but it is mainly directed at Warlocks. And those who would potentially react badly to such a meeting, the organisers would kindly ask if you avoid the floors to them when these meetings are going on. These events are run by Israel, so please contact us for more information. Of course, we'll put links to these events in the description. Upcoming, we have the Starlight Spring Market. And Starlight is, of course, up to taking the task of the markets. They've done so many times in the past. Many traders are coming up. They host a race around the lake along with auctions during the night, so please head on to Redridge. And finally, we have the Donasa Spring Festival. The Donasa Spring Festival celebrates the change of season and kinship. People are really encouraged to dress in bright colours or earthy colours, so brown, yellows, violets, you get the idea. Edible wildflowers may be used as ornaments and eaten after the festival. So it's coming on the 2nd of April, so head to Donasa Springtime Fun. And this concludes the Alliance news.
So, on to some Horde news. I went to the 13th Conclave of Quel'Thalas, and that was fantastic, even better than all the other years combined, or the years at least that I've been to. Really enjoyable, fantastically organised, just nice, punchy, quick, exciting. I could use so many different adjectives, but I'd run out. So, on to things that are going to be happening later on. There's been quite a few things in the past, but we're going to try and be quick so we can get straight on to our interview. There's an Elven Social. Some of you may have been to the other one. The other one was in Thunderbluff. A couple of weeks back, This one is celebrating Noble Garden. It's going to be on the 31st of March at 8 o'clock realm time on the Isle of Quel'Thanas. I think it is only for Blood Elves. Unfortunately, it was apparently too much to organise for the other races, from what I've seen anyway, but big thanks to Naya for doing that. It looks fantastic. I hope that this comes out in time for you all to know about it, but if you've already gone, please post below how great it was, because I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Otherwise, coming up soon, there's the Phoenix Rises, and that is hosted by Sylvash, I think. He's already spoken about it during the Conclave of Quel'Thanas. Some sort of terrible thing is going to happen. I think it's only for Blood Elves, but who knows? I'm sure you can get involved. I'm sure it's up to many people. Different races, different orders can get involved. It should be fun, and hopefully it goes well. Otherwise, some of the bigger ones that's happening is Frozen Heart campaign event, and I'm going to hand over to Andrigo just to say a bit about that, because he went to the first one.
The Frozen Heart. Hell of a good time. It really was. It was probably one of the biggest campaign events I've seen the server ever have. I mean, the concept is simple, and I think that's why it was such a success, was because it was a sandbox. It was all Nimstil really provided was a bit of a core structure for people just to, latch onto it and work around and tie into their own events. There was no strict rules or regulations about what you could or couldn't do. He just came along and said, right, here's where we are, here's where people are going to be in a few days, here's where you're going to be a few days after that, this is where we're going. But beyond that, it's all up to you. Generate your own rumor mill, make your own quests. It's all about the stories you will tell that will ultimately make this story that I'm telling that much richer. And it did pay off in a lot of ways. Now, there were some, nothing is without its faults, and there were a few issues with the first campaign, but thankfully with the second one coming up on April 15th, it's looking like all the issues that have happened the first round have been addressed, and with the second Frozen Heart campaign, it should be a blast. It should be better than ever was.
So to add to that, there's also the Zephyr campaign being held currently at the moment. Whilst we're recording, this is happening, and it goes until the 3rd of April. If you've been a part of that, please tell us how it went, and we will definitely mention it next episode, give it more of an in-depth thing. So all of the things we've missed will get a much richer explanation and examination on the next episode of Ratchet Radio, probably episode 4. We've also got the Koshag. I went to the first one on my Orc character. This is the second one's from the 20th to the 27th of March, so that's just happened. From what I saw the first one, it was a fantastic and great event. I can only imagine that the second one was even better. So some of the eyewitness reports that I've read seem to be completely and totally positive. So a real big shout out to the Orcs of the Red Blade, who are a fantastic guild for organising this once again. They do a really great job, and I have to admit, the Koshag is such a vital part of Orc roleplay and just Horde roleplay in general. It's the sense of brotherhood and just coming together for a fantastic, fun, amazing event. Everyone can just chill and enjoy it. So otherwise, there's been a few different bits and pieces all over Orgrimmar. I mean, there's been one rally for unity by the Rock Guard. We won't go too much into that, because for those of you who were there, you kind of know what went down and how things were. So really, I can only hand over to Grumpa to take us on to the next step.
Thunderbraid of Anvilmar and Brigade, also a high general of the Alliance, or something of the Alliance, because you're a pretty cool guy, you're pretty awesome.
Thunderbraid, something of the Alliance.
Yeah, I do stuff.
I want that title.
Yeah.
How do I earn it?
Role player of many multi-boxed dwarf accounts. The Great Iron Brigade marches again.
That explains the success.
I know. I'm having flashbacks to as I tend to do, but I'm remembering specifically do you remember the River campaign, Thunderbraid?
Which River campaign?
Yeah,
What?
Akato did it after Siege of Orgrimmar when we were hunting down Corcron in the Twilight Highlands.
I remember that one.
And there was
That's
this insane beach assault, and all I remember is the image of it was you on the beach, and you had landing craft, the whole Ironforge army deployed, and people are just looking, going, "It's just him. It's just him."
It wasn't the entire Ironforge army. It was part of his brigade.
Look, it was. I'm not against I quite enjoy it. It sticks. It's like people are going, but we brought like 5 guys, and what is he doing? It just looked fucking brilliant. It looked absolutely fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I don't really care what people think about that. I was
No, look, right. If it makes sense, because if you had the people, it's what you do.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you do. And in fact, that's actually going to tie into my question as well there, because if you're role playing a high military rank, you're going to have the support people below it.
I can quite happily explain my reasoning with Anvilmar and Brigades with that. So I'll probably.
We'll go into that then when I get around to you.
Shall we? We might as well start with you, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you've got your question is already suited to that, then you might as well start, huh?
You have to be such a prissy bitch.
Not like your question was written at the last moment or anything.
No, not at all. Anyway, Andrigo, take the floor.
Okay then. Alright, Thunderbraid, first things first. How has it been to roleplay a high military rank for so many years? And how have you managed to try and keep the legitimacy of the rank as well for such a long period, especially given how many roleplayers in the past have tried and arguably not succeeded in doing so?
See, this is always an interesting question when I get asked it. I think, really the answer is, at first it was just something that me and my guild came up with and gave to me without any kind of legitimacy whatsoever. I mean, legitimacy in general as a word is a bit iffy when you're talking about like military rankings like this, but it's just something that happened and I stuck with it. There was of course people going, hold on a second, who's this arsehole suddenly showing up with this high rank? But I felt that I could potentially pull it off. And I believe the way I got around that was, for a start, at its inception, the Anvilmar Brigade was a new concept. I mean, it was a military guild. That was not a new concept, but it was a dwarf military guild. And so I think there was sort of like this curiosity there, as hold on a second, what are these people doing? And I think that worked in our favour. And also, Thunderbraids generally, I think, actually speaking about it, it's the accent. Thunderbraid, and I never have ever since I started, does not speak with a typical dwarven accent, you know, missing letters, ye instead of yes, and stuff like that. I think it actually helped for people to take him a bit more seriously, because I think that was something I wanted to try with the character, is making it serious. And generally, I think it was also just a question of accepting the limitations, because a high rank, obviously, you need numbers and you need members, and for a long time that's a problem the Anvilmar Brigade has always had. And I think it's largely because, well, dwarves, people like them, but they don't tend to play them as their main characters, their alt characters, so there's generally not as big a pool to pick from. They generally want to do their own things with their alt characters rather than bind themselves to a military guild. So the way I came up with this, and it was actually during the reboots of the Anvilmar Brigade that I actually touched upon it, and it was that the actual members of the guild, the in-game guild, the actual role players, are members of this thing called the General's Company, which is basically kind of like Thorin's company, really. That was sort of the idea. So they are the General's units that go around with him, even though he may not always have the entire brigade with him or nearby. And I believe that's a sensible way to put it. And then what I also did was I would have the brigade soldiers, the actual rank and file, still show up as NPCs. And I did this during a campaign once. NPCs that are thoroughly expendable and will die. Because as player characters, they can't... Player characters, unless they actually want their character to die, they're not going to die. And people generally die in war. So... what I did was with the idea of this NPC majority brigade is that there is this bunch of soldiers who, when DM'd in private DM events or maybe wider DM events, if people agree to it, that they are there as expendable background soldiers that would be there realistically. And I felt that's what I really wanted to try and get across, is that yes, people have many military guilds And there have been many military guilds and many high rankings, and the always enduring problem has been that why is a general, for example, walking around with 5 to 10 men and not an army? And I believe I came up with a reasoning for that, is that it's not, you don't deploy the entirety of your force whenever you can, because of all the logistics involved, all the costs, funds, etc. So the general's company was my solution, to be like, okay, the rest of the brigade isn't here, but the general has brought his best troops along with him to deal with the situation, basically. I may have gone slightly away from the question there just to wrap it on, but...
No, that's fine, it's fine.
It's been interesting role-playing high military rank for so long, and I believe the thing is, I wasn't definitely not a relaxed person to begin with it, and there is evidence of that everywhere, and people will definitely agree with me that I was not always the most relaxed person. But now that I've grown up, calmed down, and I look back on things, and I can think, I think I did a fairly good job, and maybe continue to do a good job, but there is the always the question of the future.
Okay, so Thunderbraid, it is time for my questions. Now my questions are a bit more general and actually go towards the future, so it's a good time. Good job with the link, even though it was unintentional. Good job. So, my first question is, what part of Legion are you most looking forward to and why? But also, what part are you least looking forward to and why?
Aha! Now you see, this is the part where I actually go back to the first question. What I'm most looking forward to in Legion is generally what they seem to be going for at the moment, and I'm hoping they do it right, is the whole apocalyptic aspect of it. This is a very big Legion invasion. The Horde and Alliance armies have been completely decimated, and it's... I mean, I've got a story waiting in the wings for that thing, and I'm going to basically say most of the Anvilmar Iron Brigade's NPC, previously mentioned expendable soldiers, are likely going to be biting the dust during that little thing. Just to, during like the start of the invasion, I'm going to try and put that angle on it and just say there have been losses, and they've been pretty damn severe. And that's when, if Anvilmar Brigade gets the interest again, that's when it will step in and focus entirely on the General's company and their reactions to all of this, and their own fights, their own plans and storyline, which I will hopefully be going forward with. But yeah, it's generally what I'm looking forward to with Legion is, as I said, the story around it and the atmosphere. However, on that very same note, with what I'm not looking forward to, is what I have seen so far, do not say any spoilers, regarding Sylvanas. Now, let me just preface this by saying, I like Sylvanas, and I like the Forsaken as characters, but they are villains. That's my opinion. They are out-and-out villains, and, you know, I just intensely disagree with people who somehow think Sylvanas is still a good person after everything she's done. I'm not looking forward to the reactions and the debate surrounding that, because it's very tiring to begin with, and now with this additional revelation, if you will, it's going to possibly be a bit tiring for me.
That's a fair enough answer if I've ever heard one. Edrasil, you're up to the mic.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to focus on the character, on the personality of the interviewee. So, in that regard, I'm going to get a little bit personal, a little bit deep. I hope that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. I don't mind that.
Great. Well, let's get on it.
I always like talking about Thunderbraid.
Good. Just imagine, you know, we're sitting opposite each other. I'm in a rather large, lavish armchair, folding my legs, looking at you intently with fell green eyes. I'm staring at your shortness, and I'm going to ask you a question. So, Thunderbraid.
Please, hold up, Edrasil. Hold up. I'm not finished touching myself.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
This show is meant to be PG, remember that.
Yes.
Thunderbraid is actually quite cool for a dwarf.
What?
This show is not PG.
We'll just block those out in big black markers.
Confirmed.
Okay. As a general in the Alliance army, you must have tried to slay a few Horde members in your time. On the rare chance that, you know, perhaps you don't manage to kill one, and you take a prisoner, how do you treat them? Tell the budding interrogators listening to the show, give them some advice.
Well, to start with, Blood Elf, it's not the rare chance that I kill someone.
It's a very rare chance, yeah?
I'm not going to answer that. I'll just let you think on that for a little bit. But no, there is a rather amusing story with Thunderbraids and a prisoner, a Blood Elf prisoner, in fact.
Oh wow!
Join the Borderlands campaign. Borderlands accents. This was during the fighting around Dungarroch during the time, so it's quite a fond memory of Thunderbraid and the Anvilmar Brigade managing to take over Dungarroch and turn it into a base of operations of sorts. And there was skirmishing, lots of battles, primarily with Blood Elf guilds, because there seemed to be quite a lot of Blood Elves taking an interest in the Borderlands during the time. And yes, the Anvilmar Brigade did capture a Blood Elf, and the Dwarven fortresses are very interestingly built. And right at the back, just past the main hangar, there are two cell-like structures with grating that someone could go inside. So that's where they decided to put the prisoners. It's only after we did this that we realized, hold on a second, these cells, quotation marks, are the loading mechanisms for the giant cannon on top of the fortress. So we decided to roll with this, and we said to the Blood Elf prisoner, you are currently in a firing mechanism for our cannon. We will fire you out of it if you don't tell us what we want you to tell us. So that's one way. It's threatening violence in a rather spectacular manner.
Very spectacular.
But a very spectacular and dwarven manner. But in the end, the Blood Elf was released without any harm coming to her back to her fighting unit. And largely that depends on how Thunderbraid is feeling and how much damage the Horde or the prisoner's unit has inflicted upon his soldiers. If it's not very much, he'll be quite happy just to release them back into the wild, so to say, to continue their errant ways and then kick them over the head again if they come back. Or punch them over the head. Kicking someone's head as a dwarf is a bit of a impressive feat.
I literally, in my mind, when you said kick, I imagined Thunderbraid jumping up in the air, doing a backflip kick like you would if you're really good at football, like none of us are, and just kick some orc in the face and he's just dead, just because it's so impressive. But on that fact, actually, I was in the Borderlands. I was Blood Elf in the Borderlands, and I just remember killing everyone with those cavalry charges.
Yes, the cavalry charges were rather difficult to deal with, mostly because it doesn't react like an actual cavalry charge does, thanks to the game, but that's besides the point.
As is tradition, Thunderbraid, if there was one thing you could change about Argent Dawn as a server, what would it be and why?
Well, the joke answer would be more dwarves, please. But I don't think that's really going to happen. But at the Argent Dawn as a server, I would have had a lot to say a couple of years ago when I was younger and more prone to outbursts, one might say. But as it stands at the moment, I'm actually quite content with Argent Dawn. And I wouldn't really change much, but I would encourage it to continue as it has recently, because it seems to have mostly settled down from those turbulent times of the past. And I really do, as I've said before in my questions, just enjoy showing up to these large events just by myself, because I do genuinely feel that I can just sit down, roleplay, and not have to worry about any of this member count stuff or the likes. So yeah, ultimately, not really much I would change, unless you actually want me to, unless you insist I come up with a change.
Don't run away from the question, actually answer it.
You're going to have to actually answer this one.
Yep.
Let it not be said that Thunderbraid fled where others stayed and stood their ground.
Exactly.
Can I go with my not serious answer then?
By all means.
yeah, I'll go with my not serious answer. I would dearly love to have more dwarf role players around. They might not be military inclined, but I would quite like to, because at the moment, in this current event that I'm at, I'm practically the only dwarf, plus one other.
Well, in all fairness, it's not entirely a non-serious answer, because more racial diversity is always a good thing for the community.
Indeed.
As long as they're not all lampoons of, what being a dwarf actually is.
True. I've said this many times. More blood elves would be fantastic.
I think you have enough.
A great, bolster.
I'm sorry, Mr. Everdell. I think you've had enough.
On that note, I feel as if we should take a break and go to our advert.
Gobbo, take us out.
Prowling from Draenor to Azeroth, there's a band of mercenaries who love a rootin', tootin' good time. Some people like to call them the bad guys, but I prefer the usual term of lazy good-for-nothings. I'm only joking. It's the Rowdy Sparrows. If you're feeling like building a wall to block out the Forsaken, bam! They're your people. These wild mooks love gold, and they love fighting. They're led by the amazingly scary Laura Price. She's a terrifyingly ginger Humie who enjoys long walks on the beaches and stuff, yeah. Hey! I don't stalk, I just read what I'm given. A second in command is a stinking gnome named Nincy. And by stinking, I mean literally. She's mookin' dead. Anyway, as the saying goes, suck it and see. I mean the group, not the... never mind. So, if you're feeling like you want to get away from all that kerfuffle and stormwind, better check out these mookas for some action and adventure. Ratchet Radio is not held accountable for any injuries you sustain in the midst of lining your pockets with blood gold.
Welcome back to Ratchet Radio Episode 3, ladies and gentlemen. Part 2, here we come. So when we were first planning Season 2, we thought we needed a gimmick. Let's make it different from Season 1. And we, boffins here, decided to scrap that idea and sit down and watch television. Some of you might have heard of a TV show called Top Gear. So we might have stolen their idea.
Whoa, look, no, hold on. No, I can't let this go unsaid while you're saying that. The show was cancelled, gone. It was fair game. Like the BBC was just throwing out bits from the back. Clarkson was gone, that was it. Technically, we're caretaking this now. We've taken in this little cherished piece of television, and we're minding it. We're nurturing it now. We haven't stolen anything. We're taking care of it.
Okay. Someone put his metal mouth in his hands. It'll sort the situation.
Metal mouth.
Metal mouth. I don't bloody. I don't know. Right. Okay. Let's get back to the story. Anyway, we came up with an idea of a race to Ratchet. Our guests would be given one water walking potion and a ground mount to get from Gadget's in Tanaris to Ratchet in Northern Barrens. Now Thunderbraid did it first, so whatever his time is, he'll be top of the leaderboard, so don't worry about that. But we'll have all our guests do it, and then what we'll do is we'll send our Goblin to commentate on it, and when at the end of the season, we'll put our own Goblin to the test and see if he can beat their times. So, please watch Thunderbraid's attempt at the race to Ratchet. Enjoy.
Ready, set, go! And he's off. Wow! Woo! Whoa! Look at that fat dwarf go! I ain't seen a dwarf move this fast since never. Perfect! It ain't easy being, dwarfy. Oof, that was a close one. Come on, the finish line's in sight, pal. And he's finished. I hope we don't get called in for speeding.
Grand Thunderbraid, you did it in 8 minutes, 43 seconds dead. That puts you the top of our leaderboard. Well done.
Really?
Top out of no one else.
1 out of 1. Just brilliant. Brilliant stuff.
Well,
Brilliant
I am
stuff. Round of
number one,
applause.
so...
Right now, you get to hold the special cookie for #1 on the leaderboard. Bear in mind, next episode you may have to hand that over to someone else, so don't eat it.
Ugh.
Surely you should think about some other kind of reward then.
We don't have the budget. We spent all our money on getting BBC to give us Race to Ratchet. So, first things first, we're going to go through some of the comments and the questions from YouTube, Ask FM, and an email. This week the email didn't give us anything, so guys, come on, email us. ratchetradioad@gmail.com. Send us your questions, send us anything else, we'll read it, we always do, eventually. And we always respond to everything we get. Edrasil, you have the questions from the YouTube comments.
Indeed, yes. I also want to highlight some of the forum questions. When will episode 3 be out? Well, soon. I mean, well, if you're listening to it, it's out now. So there we go.
Bravo. 10 out of 10 logic. The elf knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. Anyway, to the YouTube questions. I'm focusing on a few here. Some of the ones that I thought that were best. One of them is the annoyance and the introduction of 6.2.4. They get rid of the create conversation button / function. It's terrible. It's not great. All those who do neutral / cross-faction RP, it sucks. It's awful. I remember using it back in 5.4 during the Civil War when, we had to negotiate with Alliance to kind of do joint ventures. It's annoying, and that's terrible. And whether or not they bring in something else, who knows? But I hope it's better all the same. They give them the possibility to do that sort of thing, because it's just annoying. It's just not very nice. Bad, Blizzard. Bad. Anyway, next one. We're going to go on and focus on the Chronicle. The Warcraft Chronicle Volume 1. I've read the whole thing. I think all of us have read the whole thing apart from Thunderbraid. So, to that degree, it's a fantastic read. I'd love to discuss about it, but unfortunately we don't have too much time during the episode. So maybe we'll have to dedicate a discussion of the day to the whole of it, to discussing the new lore once everyone's had a good chance to read it. But it is fantastic. The beginning of the book about Titans, it made us all, wet with excitement. So it's fantastic. Please order one, or find a way to read it. Read over your friend's shoulders or something. It's fantastic. So that's the YouTube comments. On to Ask FM.
So Ask FM had one question, and it's a question which we've avoided so far, but I think it's about time we owe you an explanation. The question is as followed: what inspired the idea behind Ratchet Radio? There's also other comment. Also, Andrigo's Irishness makes me envision him as a little leprechaun. Just want to start in there. It's part of the question. If you look on our Ask FM, it'll be, because I've written an answer to it.
I actually have something to ask Andrigo at this current point. What do you what do you put iodine solution on to test for starch?
Oh no. Oh dear.
Go on, what's the answer, Andrigo? I'm just curious.
Given the PG nature of our show, I can't give you an adequate response.
I'd have to, just to tell the audience, it is potatoes,
So I'm just going to...
Sadly, we got into a debate about IRL, but it's totally not relevant.
/ we're totally not silencing Andrigo.
Right, what inspired the idea behind Ratchet Radio? Ratchet Radio came about on a Saturday evening at 3 o'clock, it'll be Sunday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, when I had hay fever and I was feeling like rubbish. My best ideas always happen at 3 AM for some reason. And Andrigo and I have been good mates on WoW for years, LPing with each other and just generally having a good laugh. Namely about Arator and cookbooks, that's a whole other story.
Let's not forget the Night Naru.
The Night Naru, oh my god, the Night Naru. Oh, that was how
That was
actually...
a wonderful evening.
I'll explain that in a minute. But Ratchet Radio came about was I thought, well, why couldn't we have a radio station for Argent Dawn? And I sent a message to Andrigo, and Andrigo says, this isn't a half bad idea. And so we got together into an RV van, drove off to the desert, and began, hang on, that's the wrong show. Right, what we did is we just sat down, a Skype call, discussed the ideas, and we approached a few people asking, would you be willing to do the Horde host? And people were a bit apprehensive about it and didn't really want to take part in it. We did come across, though, Theraphil during the saga of the Night Naru. He was on one of his walking characters at the time, and sort of he got into the idea behind it, and he was very helpful in the first few episodes, minus Oreo Gate, but he was very useful in helping us get the show up and running. It was his idea we had the guest interviews, and without actually him being an input in the show, we wouldn't have Edrasil on the show right now, who has been pretty much an editing god who has fixed this show and stopped it from failing so many times. And also why Thunderbraid's here today, because of course it's the whole guest thing. So in short, 3 AM, hay fever, and me not being able to sleep and just going through my head, which is a weird and wacky place. That's how Ratchet Radio was born. And this is my baby.
Indeed. I kept thinking when you were going sort of like hay fever, 3 AM, couldn't sleep. He threw all of this into a cauldron and 3 little girls were born, thus the Powerpuff Girls were made. I kept thinking that.
So hang on, we've ripped off Top Gear, Breaking Bad, and the Powerpuff Girls. This is a good show.
Very good. Okay, so Andrigo is now going to take us on to the discussion of the day. He's going to explain it because this is his topic. I feel like you've suggested a lot of topics. You're doing very well at the moment, Andrigo. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Alright then. Well, this week I wish to discuss something a little different, but tying in with our general trend of helping people prepare for the coming expansion and also dealing with the situations we're in currently. And while the past couple of weeks we've been looking at what's coming next and how to fill in the time, what I'd like to talk about now is how to work with DMing events for a varied crowd and how to handle an event going bad. I had also wanted to speak about cross-faction roleplay, but since 6.24 has come out and thoroughly brought it behind the shed and put 2 bullets in its back, we're going to have to leave that one out and just stick with DMing for a varied crowd and how to handle events going poorly. Is that okay with everyone else?
Sounds great to me.
Alright then.
So, Grumpa, do you want to start?
Okay, so DM events that go bad. I have a habit of not if I've led a guild or I'm an officer in a guild, I have a habit of asking one of my good friends, Kyle, to write the DM events because I can come up with an idea and then sort of he'll take that idea, mould it, make it brilliant, and then come out with something wonderful. If it goes bad, I've never had something go bad before, but if it were to go bad, you have to sort of sit down and assess the situation. You continue on, but afterwards you sit down and sit going, okay, why you don't have to go through and grade it, sort of what went well, what was mediocre, what went really bad. Then you sort of analyse what went really bad, and you sort of ask people around, because if they were there, they'll be able to tell you what was good, what was bad, and it's a case of you apologise, but then you try and make things better for next time. One thing is, you can't be discouraged from these things. I mean, it's like writing essays. You might not be able to write an essay, but if you continue to practice at it, and you have people support and you get people behind you, you'll get it. You'll crack it eventually. It's fine. The thing is, you've just got to remember, you just keep going, and make sure you're willing to learn, accept it, and be prepared to move on if need be.
That's some sound advice there. Andrigo, do you want to have a crack?
The main things I want to talk about are actually part of what inspired me to bring up the point to begin with. there's been a few events I've gone to in my time as a neutral role player that have had a varied crowd, because obviously we can work with anyone and everyone. And indeed, some of our more memorable events have been where we would have either worked cross-faction or worked with very diverse and indeed unexpected allies for the purpose of getting the job done. And it's always been a fantastic experience. But in this line of roleplay as well, there is also the opportunity for people because obviously if you're running into people that you don't know, you wouldn't be familiar with, you might not be adequately prepared for how these people tend to roleplay or how their mannerisms and idioms come across. And sometimes you might run into someone who maybe is just a little too fond of the spotlight. This can also be a contributing factor for events going poorly, because if the dungeon master is not prepared to work with that or roll around it or knows how to handle such a person, it can end up derailing things for everybody else even, really. And it just becomes a huge mess to try and pick apart later on. It can lead to a lot of out of character upset and issues. It's something you have to watch. It is something you have to watch. If you have someone you think is trying to kind of steal the show or sweep the rug out from everyone else, give them attention. Obviously, give them something. Give them enough to occupy them, so that they don't feel inclined that they have to keep going, for more and more and more and more. And invest time adequately. Give everyone. I won't say an equal share, because obviously if someone's trying ridiculously hard like that, they're not going to be happy when they notice. You're only giving them a little bit. But it's one of those moments where the DM has to kind of just sit up in the chair and go, right, okay, hold on. Got to actually work here. And you're going to have to just kind of push yourself a little harder, I suppose. I'm not saying now that it's all on the DM here for this. Obviously, you have to take that person aside afterwards and try and discuss things. Or if it's your only one-off thing, if it was a one-shot event, go on your merry way. But it's one of those situations that I admit I'd struggle with it, because I'd always try and give everyone what seems to be appropriate to them. I understand, especially with older characters that may have seen and done a lot of things, that it can be a bit difficult, really, to give something appropriate, or to make that person feel like this is all worth their time. That said, if the person stealing the spotlight is resulting in a 2-hour wait time for other individuals, indeed a whole raid group of people waiting to actually get grips with the event that's happening, leave them in a ditch and move on. Seriously. Fun comes first. Fun always comes first. And if you're not having fun when you're role-playing, you've made a fundamental mistake, and you have to go back and look at what you're doing and make some changes.
Solid. Thunderbraid, do you want to enlighten us?
On DMing for large events?
Or just when it goes wrong, how do you handle it?
Oh, when it goes wrong. Generally, what I would prefer to do is just roll with it. If it does go wrong, someone does something which I didn't plan for in a DM event, if there are supposed to be consequences of them, straying from the path, I would try and apply them, but not in a too heavy-handed gesture, because at the end of the day, when you're DMing for such a large group, or even just a few friends, you want people to have fun and, not just smack them over the head if they do something you don't want to do. Basically, if you're DMing, adapting is a very good thing to do, and it's something that I've seen quite a lot of people do very well with DMing. Being able to adapt is rather crucial.
Indeed, absolutely. In my opinion, in many of the events that I've DM'd or been in DM'd events, it's always a struggle for a leader to have a precise control and precise sort of influence over others. It's tough, and it is a struggle. One of the best ways to deal with that is if something does go wrong, if like the whole of the raid is suddenly like, what, that doesn't make any sense, the best thing to do is to stop it where it is, for the leaders to go, okay, so this is where things have gone wrong, let's try and pick it up tomorrow and do something right. I think taking a step back and being mature about it is the best way, because I've seen people storm off, rage quit, go away, shout at others over horrific sort of problems or certain issues, and that's just not the way to deal with things. It's not the way that adults deal with things, and I realize that this is a game where people of the ages of 12 can head up to get involved in the game and lead events, but the point is that we're a community and we're meant to sort of help and aid each other. So in that regard, if things do go badly, sort of don't panic too much. Just get involved and ask someone for help. Another major thing to say is that if you don't like a specific way of DMing, don't get involved. You don't have to do it. As Andrigo said, if you're not having fun and you're not going to have fun, don't get involved. Politely decline. I know like a lot of GMs tend to go, or guild leaders go, you have to be involved. You have to get involved. Otherwise, you don't get a certain number of points towards your next rank or whatever. But just try and politely say, look, I don't find that fun. I don't find that fun. If you prefer sort of full-out PvP to RP PvP to DM'd events, then say it, or find a guild that works for you, because that's the best way to avoid any horrific sort of DM'd events or any event. Just that's the best way. So avoidance, but also be mature. So that's my opinion on that.
If I could just add to that, because something just jumped to mind. It's quite particularly prudent for Anvilmar and Brigade.
Sure.
It's an interesting thing with the whole DMing events and numbers, because I've seen a fair few DM events where only 2 or 3 people show up, and people go, "There's not enough people here. We'll just cancel it and try another day." I made the mistake of doing that with Anvilmar and Brigade, and the result was it felt slumped into inactivity because the 2 or 3 dedicated people who showed up didn't have anything to do, so naturally they weren't going to show up anymore. So what I would recommend to people is to not do that, and even if you've only got 2 or 3 people and what you plan for was for 10, go ahead with it. Just adapt, as I said before, go ahead with it, come up with something fun for those 2 to 3 people, because at the end of the day, most Dungeons and Dragons groups, for example, or pen and paper groups, are only made up of 3 or 4 people. You don't need massive amounts of people to have fun with role-playing.
Absolutely, that's totally true.
That's all we've got time for this week. Thank you very much for watching. A big thank you to Thunderbraid today for joining us. I hope you enjoyed your time here. Hopefully your time can remain the top, but I reckon we're going to be giving you some challenges in the future. So I think that's going to wrap things up for today. So thank you, of course, to Thunderbraid, but to Andrigo and Edrasil for joining us on the show today. Hopefully to see you next time for episode 4. But until then, keep enjoying what you're doing, and may you be safe in your travels. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good evening, folks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been good fun.
A pleasure having you.